to do anything. I was a judge this year. You want to know what my experience was?
For clarification, this is Glass Reflection, one of my favorite anime content creators. He has been in the game working with anime for way over a decade, since the early 2010s. I remember watching his videos before I even was an anime content creator. He knows what he talks about. He understands anime. He understands the culture. He is definitely very informed about the anime industry. If there's anyone I definitely can understand or believe in what they're talking about, it's definitely this man right here. And this is his experience as a judge for this year at the Crunchyroll Awards, and what he had to go through, and why the results turned out like it did. So let's let him speak here.
My experience was, hey, here are our categories these years. Here's the rough criteria, which is the same, and then it's been for every year. Sure, fine.
Oh, good. It's not like they announced that publicly.
And then it was like, okay, well, here is my choices for these. Previous years, we've ranked them. There was like points to be assigned and things. This year was just like, what would you put here? And then that made the nominations.
They didn't have numerical rankings.
You didn't rank. You didn't assign points.
They just had.
Oh, there was no round two.
There was no round two.
No, they just collated your submitted. Oh, that's terrible.
Wait, what?
They just collated. They asked the judges to submit nominations and then averaged out which ones had the most nominations.
Let's get.
Do I need to explain what's bad with this? Like, it is absolutely soul crushing. Just how incompetent of a company Crunchyroll really is. Like, I already have talked about them in so many different ways and how just they are as a company. But this is really just, it reinforces everything that everyone has talked about, to Crunchyroll being more corpo, to Crunchyroll lacking communication, for Crunchyroll not really listening to people, for Crunchyroll to just like trying to pat themselves on their own back with some things, like for instance soul leveling winning. Just everything about this just reeks of just incompetence, poor communication, and corpo. It's not a good look. This is legitimately not a good look. And the fact that you have your judges, Glass Reflection, talking about his experience and how he didn't get an actual vote and it was just nominations is insane. Now, I do want to go on record and say this. I was told by an anonymous source that some judges did get a second vote. Now, I'm not going to name drop who told me this because I don't want to get them in trouble, but they are a very credible source. What I'm trying to say is that it's clear this reinforces the poor communication. At least from this perspective of what Glass Reflection is talking about, he was unaware, was never even told that he would get a vote before the voting went public for the Anime Awards, while some judges were able to do a second vote. So whatever happened there, clearly some bad communication. That is the initial bad starting point right there, is just very bad communication. However, what this entire segment here paints as a picture, even if we disregard that fact, it paints a picture that the voting process for this year was stacked against not just the judges, but just anyone that remotely watches a lot of anime. It legit is everything that everybody criticizes and memes on about the Crunchyroll Awards. It's a popularity vote. This has obviously been evident for a very long time. There's evidence to support this for a while, and it definitely, Glass Reflection and others in this tried to communicate that they have tried to actively fight back against that for years. But this year, it's very clear that everybody, a lot of content creators and everybody associated is speaking out about this, that this year's Anime Awards was very different. It did not feel right. There was something off about them. And Soul Leveling sweeping like it did makes so much more sense now when you see this conversation and understand the insight behind the scenes. The judges nominated categories. They nominated what was on the Crunchyroll Awards. The different judges did. Over 100 judges, by the way, voted, or not voted, they nominated. Some might have voted, according to an anonymous source. But basically, what this shows us is that the public is what voted. And it was always going to be Soul Leveling as a victor for one big reason, and that is this evidence right here. The voting for the Anime Awards for the public, according to Glass Reflection, when, because a lot of judges didn't probably even get to vote, the Anime Awards opened on April 3rd. My birthday, by the way, and everybody could vote for the anime of the year. And if we look at the date of when Soul Leveling Season 2 ended, it ended on March 30th, 2025. Not even a week after it ended, we were getting voting for Anime of the Year. And I want to remind everybody that Soul Leveling Season 2 was not in the categories. It was just Season 1 from 2024. So, regardless if that's true, like, you know, if people knew that or not, it was always going to win because the freshness of Soul Leveling was in people's minds for a very, or not for a very long time, just fresh in their minds because it ended a few days prior, that no wonder people would vote for Soul Leveling. It makes perfect sense. So, even if we put in the fact that the judges got to vote or not, it makes more sense now because of just how the awards were done this year. But let's get into the actual voting and nominees and what this actually means. So one thing I want to point out is that there is a lot of judges that participated in the Crunchyroll Anime Awards this year. Over 100. A lot of journalists, a lot of writers, a lot of content creators. But I noticed when I was looking at these different categories, there was a lot of big names, a part of major journalists and news sites and stuff that were a part of. Like this individual right here, he literally works with IGN. And I think anyone that knows how IGN is for reviews and stuff, I'm not saying he is a part of the problem of IGN. I'm not saying he's a bad writer or anything like that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that we know how IGN is and how reviews and stuff have been and just opinion pieces and stuff that's been over the years. And it's very clear that a lot of these judges, most likely that have been involved in this judging process, probably don't watch a lot of anime. They probably only watch the mainstream stuff, and then they talk about that mainstream stuff because obviously that will get them the most clicks. And let's explain what that means. So, obviously, if you're a news site and you're wanting to write an article about Crunchyroll's Anime Awards, what's going to get the most clicks? Well, obviously something that is the most popular, aka Solo Leveling. So why would anyone want to vote for something that is like underground, like Girls Band Cry, when they can vote for something like Solo Leveling, when obviously everybody will click on an article to talk about that instead of anything else? So there was clearly a lot of bias potentially put with the judges. I'm not saying this happened, but this also leads to problems when you have just so many judges that are even outside of the anime community. And the way to fix this, honestly, is to lower the judge amount. There should be only like 10, 20 at most judges, and that is it. That is in this voting process, even if we disregard everything that we've already learned from this video clip. And the fact that you have over 100 judges deciding the categories, and once again, you know for a fact all these judges did not watch every anime. I don't expect them to, because there's like 200, 300 plus anime per year. But obviously, this is why you need to slim down the judge amount, and people that are just straight up dedicated to this, like completely dedicated, that will get a lot of anime out there and talk about it. And that's how you get stuff like this from previous years. This is a tweet that blew up considerably since the Crunchyroll Awards, showcasing the Anime of the Year victors ever since 2017 to 2025, and everybody notices it, the radical shift from 2020 to 2025, and how the categories became more focused on battle shonen and just action animation. That's really what it was. And when you look at like 2017 and 2018, it's clear we're never going to get a time period where anime like this ever wins, and the judges had a big deciding factor on probably why this happened in the first place. But regardless of that, what this comes down to, and the big takeaway is that there was just such poor communication on the end with the judges, to Crunchyroll and the fans and everything, that it resulted in the hot mess that we got, and why Solo Leveling swept as much as it did. It really is everything that people complain about. It was a popularity vote, nothing else. There was many different ways to handle this, and the fact that you have some judges saying they got a vote and some didn't is insane. Actually insane stuff. But yeah, I hope these three don't get in trouble. I mean, they're definitely probably not going to get maybe brought back for judging for new anime awards for Crunchyroll, because obviously speaking out like this and how public it's now gotten, yeah, I don't see Crunchyroll wanting to work with them probably in the future. But regardless, if that happens or not, this is a nice insight. It is a very nice insight to what went wrong and just the big inherent problem. So to reiterate my points, what needs to happen is better communication from Crunchyroll, clearly, way better communication. We need to have earlier voting. I know that might be difficult because my anonymous source told me that trying to get voting out in January is incredibly difficult because of the holiday season and how Japan works. That's understandable, but there definitely needs to be something that is done, because having results anime awards happen in March, especially having a series that was in the bracket that was, you know, just ended is not good because it brings recency bias. So it's a mix of a lot of things. That's the issue here. And anime's supposed to be celebrated, and this is definitely what this attention that is giving these anime awards is that it's a joke. That is not what I think any company really wants, is to have your awards look like a joke and clowned upon. It is not something you ever want to see, but that is what's going to happen, and this bombshell information definitely, this makes it look even worse than we even realized. So I'm going to leave it at that. There's a lot more I could say about this, but I'm just... wow, man. Who would have thought? I just didn't think Crunchyroll could reach a new layer of incompetence. But I love you guys. Be safe, stay healthy. Chibi out.